Goku and Superman. This is the science behind all of their powers and feats to see who is really stronger. Learning from all of this channel's videos where I put my scientist background to use, analyzing the science behind our favorite characters. The story of Goku and Superman are not so different, in that each of them were orphaned as newborns being sent away to Earth shortly before the deaths of their planets, and this isn't a coincidence, as before writing the series that would come to be known as Dragon Ball, the author Akira Toriyama was already a confessed admirer of a star character in the West called Superman. Goku, whose birth name is Kakarot, being a pun for carrot, was sent away from planet Vegeta, or vegetable, at the age of 3 in the manga, or the ripe age of around 1 day old in the show. Unknown to Goku, his parents, fearing the planet's imminent destruction by Lord Frieza, with none other fellow Saiyans listening to them, decided to send Goku to Earth in a space capsule that can literally move at speeds of over 681 million miles a second, or nearly 2.5 trillion miles an hour, originally so he could conquer Earth for his race, known as the Saiyans. And not too shortly after Goku was sent away, Lord Frieza arrived to destroy the planet, fearing an ancient prophecy about a Saiyan one day rising with the power to stop him. Shortly after Goku arrived on Earth, where he was found by an old man named Gohan, that quickly discovered Goku's destructive, violent instincts. But a fortunate blow to Goku's head erased his memory and turned him into a fun-loving kid. Gohan went on to train Goku in the Kame Sennin Kame School style of martial arts, and realized that Goku became a bloodthirsty beast whenever he was exposed to a full moon. He instructed the boy to never look at the moon, but Goku disobeyed, transforming into a great ape, accidentally murdering Gohan. From here, Goku essentially raised himself alone up in the mountains, until at the age of 11, he ran into a young woman named Bulma, joining her on her quest to recover the 7 Dragon Balls. From this moment on, Goku's story becomes one of him battling against increasingly difficult opponents, all who dwarf the previous ones in their strength and overall power, befriending some of them who join him in saving their planet. Goku protects Earth from the remainder of his own race, battles Frieza on an exploding planet, fulfilling the ancient prophecy, an android made from the combined DNA of the universe's strongest warriors, a giant indestructible blob of bubblegum known as Boo, and eventually his journey leads him to fight for the entire 7th universe in a fight against the other 11, constantly increasing his powers, abilities, and reaching new Super Saiyan forms throughout all of them, eventually even reaching a state that scares all of the gods of destruction known as Ultra Instinct. And when it comes to Goku's feats, Goku is basically a fun-loving training monster who, much like his Saiyan counterpart Vegeta, is absolutely single-minded as he lives to fight. When he was 15, Goku swam halfway around the world in order to attend the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament, a distance that would total nearly 20,000 miles in 1 day. And everyone in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z seemed to pack the power within the plasma-based energy blast that they casually throw around to easily destroy the moon or entire planets, with the force necessary to blow apart the moon requiring a minimum force of nearly 30 trillion megatons of TNT, which is 6 billion times the power of the largest nuclear warhead ever detonated. Goku initially walked around in weighted clothes that at first weighed a total of 250 pounds in Dragon Ball. Then in Dragon Ball Z's first saga, Goku then dies and proceeds to run out from heaven across Snake Way, that's said to be 1 million kilometers long or 625,000 miles in 177 days, meaning Goku would have ran at about 235 kilometers per hour, or 145 miles per hour, given that he fell off a fourth of the way through, had a snake princess fall in love with him, and wrestled 2 German ogres in heck, having to then start all over, meaning that Goku would actually be running at more like 294 kilometers an hour, or 183 miles per hour. Goku then finally makes it and trains on King Kai's planet, whose gravity is roughly 10 times that of Earth, meaning that in order for Goku, who somehow is said to weigh 137 pounds, to walk would be like him constantly carrying a 1,370 pound log on his back, as his 3-pound brain now weighs 30 pounds, and his heart goes into overdrive trying to somehow pump his blood back to his brain, as most humans would quickly pass out and likely die at anything over 4 times Earth's gravity. gravity, which might also crush some of their organs. But luckily for Goku, he's a Saiyan, who upon completing his training and being wished back to life, rushes back to Earth, running back through Snake Way in just 2 days at speeds of 20,830 kilometers per hour or 13,018 miles per hour, defeating the Saiyan threat. In the second saga, Goku then goes on to train at 100 times Earth's gravity. That would make him weigh nearly 14,000 pounds. That would instantly crack a person's bones and rip, rupture, and tear apart their major arteries and veins, instantly killing them. Not too soon after, in what infamously took 20 episodes, making it the longest drawn-out battle in animated history, Goku against Frieza finally went Super Saiyan, multiplying his base strength and power at the time by a factor of 50. And later with Goku Super Saiyan 2 multiplying his power by 100, and Super Saiyan 3 by 400, whose transformation shook the entire Earth as Goku screamed his lungs out, which in order for Goku to shake the entire planet, he would be exerting a force somewhere over 21 zeta tons, or 88 non-Neelian joules of energy, which would be equivalent to the force of 42 trillion of the largest nuclear warheads to ever be detonated, known as the Tsar Bomba. Goku later is seen wearing training weights that in total weigh 40 tons, which again, thanks to the gravity of Heaven or King Kai's planet, weigh 400 tons. But soon after Goku and Prince Vegeta, who had already trained in 500 times Earth's gravity that would just instantly rip you apart, train on their god of destruction's planet under the angel Whis, where they are forced to wear training suits that are so heavy that their mere existence causes them to literally and continuously sink into the ground. This would mean that these training clothes are very, very dense. And if we compare the god Beerus's planet to Earth and assume that these suits sooner or later are dense enough to push through the planet's Earth-like bedrock, we could assume that they have a density somewhere over 6.5 gigagrams per cubic meter, or weigh roughly 6.5 million kilograms per cubic meter, which is about 40 times denser than the core of the sun, 6,000 times denser than water, and estimating their size and volume, these things would weigh somewhere along the lines of 565,500 kilograms, or well over 1 million freaking pounds. Along with this, Goku and Vegeta lift weights that would likely weigh in the ballpark of 500 to 700,000 pounds, as they manage to somehow run screaming with them, reaching the power known as Super Saiyan Blue, which is beyond the power of a Super Saiyan God, a form that allowed Goku to spar with the God of Destruction, multiplying his base strength somewhere around 1 million times. And later, Goku then reached the state known as Ultra Instinct, multiplying his base strength by something like 1,500,000,000 times. And in this tournament, Goku even withstood the force of an artificial black hole, with the gravitational force at just the black hole's event horizon being 1.6 trillion times the gravity of Earth. And in his fight against the God of Destruction Beerus, with all the gods being conveniently named after alcohol, they were hitting each other so hard that they threatened to rip apart the entire universe when Goku was in his much lesser god state. With Goku's new form known as Autonomous Ultra Instinct being the culmination of his martial arts training that allows each part of his body to think and act on his own, meaning that he is able to automatically react to any situation or threat with the perfect move with the perfect timing. And then we've got Superman. Superman, who was created in 1934, was from the planet Krypton, which was either destroyed due to its sun going supernova, or from the planet becoming unstable due to the damage that had been done to its core. And with the Kryptonian Council refusing to hear the pleas of their former scientist Jor-El, sometimes opting instead to listen to an AI named Brainiac, the planet ended in a massive earthquake that, if Krypton is anything like the Earth, would be comparable to the likes of 1 quadrillion of the largest nuclear warheads ever, blowing apart the planet into a new asteroid field, and also sent kryptonite flying across the galaxy. From this point on, Superman's story has relatively stayed the same, with us reliving it from show to new show as he grows up on a farm in Kansas as a purebred apple pie American. But Superman's Superman's powers have changed quite a bit in his story, as originally Superman couldn't fly, only having super strength, speed, and invulnerability, having to peek through windows in order to spot and hear criminals. But this didn't last long, as soon Superman became more like an all-powerful genie, easily running fast enough to time travel and run around the speed of light, or over 670 million miles per hour. Superman could also easily learn literally anything in a moment's notice, like surgery, could create indestructible clothes, cure blindness with a touch, and soon his powers had him sneezing an entire solar system to dust, as he somehow, someway wrapped a giant space chain around all of the planets inside a galaxy and hauled all of them across space to another galaxy. To give you an idea of what this means, our galaxy has somewhere between an estimated 100 to 400 billion stars and a rough estimate of 800 billion to 3.2 trillion planets. Now let's say Superman, moving at super speeds well beyond the speed of light, like 100 billion miles per hour, manages to wrap a giant space chain around a mere 400 billion Earth-sized planets, with the Earth weighing over 13 septillion pounds, that's 24 zeros, means that Superman would casually be hauling around over 5 undecillion pounds. That's 5 followed by 36 zeros and is just unfathomable amounts of weight. He then went on to survive and make his way through a blast comparable to the Big Bang, an explosion that for a moment heated the universe up to 1,000 trillion degrees, exploding with a power that is 10 to the 54th megatons, or 10 septendecillion megatons, that created the entire universe, as later Superman then flew so fast as to break through the bonds of infinity, which would have destroyed the entire multiverse, but luckily he was asked to stop. Now, this Superman would obviously destroy Goku, and God forbid if Goku were to ever go up against any of Superman's later iterations like Superman Prime or Cosmic Armor Superman or the terrifying Milkman Man, some who have the power to manipulate the universe itself and do anything they wish. But this is not the Superman all of us have come to know today. This was pre-Crisis Superman, where following a multiverse catastrophe where all of DC's universes were recreated into one universe, Superman was purposely toned down to the post-Crisis one we know today, who runs around as a reporter, pals around with Batman and the Justice League while fighting villains in Metropolis who may use a new green substance against him. While Superman has changed a bit over the years, gradually getting more powerful, and once again being able to freely travel in space without oxygen, this is otherwise the modern Superman everyone knows that Goku would be fighting against, who is still just a monster. Superman once threw and then hit the opening pitch for a Major League Baseball game, hitting the ball all the way to a target on the moon for charity, or at minimum the 25,020 miles per hour needed to escape the Earth's gravitational pull, being careful not to hit the special ball so hard as to not send it through the moon and shatter it apart, if not worse, meaning that Superman could easily hit the ball with a force equivalent to 1 billion Zarbamas, which the shockwave of his punches can easily do and did do. Superman frequently hits enemies hard enough to shatter small planets, which, if they are twice the size of the moon, would be the force equal to 12 billion Zarbambas, and in a disagreement has punched Wonder Woman from the sun to the earth, hitting her hard enough to hit nearly the speed of light, or 186,000 miles per second. He has at times moved the Earth and has pushed entire planets out of their own orbits, which, if their mass is anything like the Earth, and if they were also to orbit a yellow star, the force required to push them just 5% farther away from the star due to something like solar heating would take a force of 227 billion newtons, or the force force around 6,800 Saturn V rockets. But if he was to completely pull them out of their orbits around a star similar to our sun, he would be pushing or pulling with a force equivalent to 105 quadrillion, 407 trillion, 194 billion megatons of force. This is over 16 trillion times the combined force of every nuclear weapon on Earth. But perhaps one of his greatest feats was holding a small black hole in his hand that he then tossed into a wormhole that, for a black hole of this tennis ball type size to exist, would have to have a minimum mass somewhere around 1.5 solar masses, or otherwise 1.5 times the mass of the sun. And heck, when needed, this Superman even flew through several black holes and has accelerated near the speed of light, increasing his mass so he can perform the mother of all punches, called the infinite mass punch, to blow apart things like the Shadow Moon that had the same mass as our own moon. And much like Goku has traded blows with villains that also managed to shake an entire universe for a moment. And as much practice as I'm getting with calculating enormous numbers, thanks to this and the recent videos on this channel, which one of these two characters is actually stronger? Who would win in a fight? Both of these guys are so powerful as to fight gods, are bulletproof, and due to either Goku's tendency to drag on a fight and Superman's plot, both of them are many times injured by what would be clearly lesser villains, like when Goku fought Universe 6 holding way back, and when Superman fights villains like Livewire, who brings him to his knees using electricity. Superman is also clearly vulnerable to magic, but that's not an issue for him here. He has a regenerative healing factor, freezing breath that gets down to negative 195 degrees Celsius, heat vision that gets up to 28 million degrees Celsius, and he's relatively smart, and still has a form of super learning at times, which is more than we can say for Goku. Superman is also trained in the Kryptonian fighting arts of Tokuawism Rao and Tokuawism Vo, but the new Superman is shown to easily bruise, having bruises on his face and body after fights, collisions with tanks and buildings and trains, and if he's caught in any sort of atomic or radioactive explosion, he's pretty much out for the count until he recovers, with his powers being much more reliant on how solar charged he is, and his powers can even run out or just get way weaker the more time he spends using his powers without being recharged via direct sunlight. Goku also bruises. If his tail is grabbed, the fight is pretty much over, is terrified of needles, and never ever goes all out from the start, loving to fight so much that he holds way back, ramping up his power as the fight goes on. Goku, however, is trained in around 7 different martial arts styles that he relies on heavily, including his turtle style, wrestling and judo moves, kickboxing, and Muay Thai, along with him using different plasma-based energy attacks constantly throughout the series that easily blows stuff up. Goku lives to train, studies fighting endlessly under increasingly skilled teachers, is skilled at reading and predicting his opponent's moves, strengths, and weaknesses, and like Superman, always manages to save the day just in time. And if these two were to ever square off, apart from what they each stand for, the Superman we have come to know could win against Goku if he went all out from the start, trying to end the fight as quickly as possible. Besides that, it seems like Goku, whose fighting skills and techniques do reach way further than our regular Superman, would win, especially if the fight were to drag on blow for blow, as Superman uses up more of his power and Goku keeps increasing his power, breaking through even more of his limits. The winner of this matchup is Son Goku. But if none of this was very interesting, then I saved an interesting fact for last. You may not know that Superman's origin story was made to reflect the immigrant story of the 1930s, where both he and later Goku became refugees that found themselves in a strange new world that may very well reject them. Both ran solo for a long time before meeting new friends, with Superman first running into Batman, whose ridiculous strength and feats we go over in this video. See you in the next one.